Hi, I'm Jim and this is Jim's Fix-It Shop. And I've had a lot of questions about I can't get my clutch cable adjusted right. What am I doing wrong? Well, it's a couple things you want to check first. One is you want to make sure your tail on your chain case, that's what I call it, is in the center of this groove, directly under the bottom of this flat, as close to the center as you can get it. Now to do that, you have to adjust your latch plate speed something, I don't know what they call it. I call it a shift plate. You can all recognize this. I've got the shifting lever out because I have to weld it and grind it down and paint it for a viewer and then reassemble this. But this is the outside. And right here are two bolts. You can see where the heads were. You loosen them bolts up and you slide this plate on the side of your machine, and that will move your chain case in this slot. You want it right in the center of this flat. Now if you're having trouble, and once you get it in the center and you got this locked down and you shift it a couple times, you put it in neutral and it doesn't go back to the same place. Well, that's because you got wear in your shift linkages. That's these things. You have two of them. This is a long one and the other one is about this long. It's a short one. That's the one that's hooked to your chain case. Now this one's getting pretty bad. It shouldn't just flop around. And you can push it in and out. You have probably, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 7. You probably have 6 or 7 points that can get wore like this. And that will give you enough slop where you can actually move this chain case back and forth when it's in neutral. So you might want to adjust your chain case and get it in the center of your yoke before you try to adjust your clutch cable. Now your clutch cable, I don't know if I can get you down here where you can see better. The first thing I do is I back off the brake cable. Get it as loose as you can. The clutch cable goes from the pedal all the way back to the yoke, and it hooks in, this is your yoke, it hooks in right here in this slot. You stick the cable, the end of the cable through, that has the ferrule stamped on it, through this hole, and you turn the cable so it's pulling straight out, and then it's locked in there, it can't come out. So once you got your brake cable loose, try adjusting your, right now mine is in neutral position on the shift lever and the pedal is up. Now I'm going to push the pedal down and shift the machine. Now I've got it in second gear and the pedal is up, as if you just let up on the pedal to take off. I cannot turn this clutch disc. If I do turn it, I think you'll be able to see maybe down inside of here. You can see the fan turning in there. So I'm turning the engine over by turning the clutch disc. So it's plenty of tension between the chain case and the drive disc by adjusting your spring. In the previous video, I just showed how to put that spring on. To adjust it, you can watch video number 70. And to adjust your shift plate, I think that's video 265. I'm thinking. I better check that and make sure. I'm old, I forget things. 253. Sorry. That's the video that'll show you how to adjust your shift plate. Now I'm going to leave the machine in second gear. I'm going to push the clutch pedal down and slide over the lock, locking the parking brake. Okay, that's got the drive system or the rear end in neutral, and the parking brake is locked. Now I can turn this. It is not touching the drive disc. When I first got this machine, it was touching. And when I had it in neutral the way it is right now, regardless what gear it was in, it should sit there and idle without a problem. This one would not. I could smell rubber burning, meaning that it was touching, but not enough to actually drive the machine, but it was touching enough to start burning the rubber off. And I've had viewers ask me, why does my clutch disc only last me one season or a few mowings? Well, that could be the reason. Your clutch cable is not adjusted right. This should, you can see me turning this. This should turn totally free regardless if it's in gear or not. Now, to get that to act like this, you have to adjust the ferrules on the end of the cable. That's the little round things you push through your clutch / brake pedal that shortens the length of your clutch cable. Now this machine came with this cable on it. So I don't know if it's the wrong cable and it's a little long. I doubt it. I think it's stretching, because the 33-inch machines are the longest machine they made. The other sizes, they get a little shorter. A 42-inch is shorter because there's a different deck. You don't need all that clearance because it's carrying 3 blades instead of 1. And if you buy one of them thinking you're going to pick up leaves, you're not. The only machines that pick leaves up the way these do is a single blade, regardless if it's a 25-inch, 28, 30, 33, but it does have to be a high vac deck. That's the way the patented deck is made on these things that creates so much vacuum. Now, my cable was too long. And like I said, I'm using all 5 of my ferrules. Let me turn this so I can see what you're looking at. So what I had to do is I had to go down and buy a 1/8 inch cable clamp. Now they have them in 1/16 inch cable clamp. And I know some of you guys are going to say, wait a minute, that 1/16 inch cable clamp fits on my 1/8 inch cable. Well, that's because what these are designed for is you run the cable through the clamp, you make a loop, and you come back through the clamp. So a 1/16 inch clamp has to be big enough to handle 1/8 inch of cable. So I used an 1/8 inch clamp because it's wider, if I can get it to cooperate, it's wider this way than the smaller ones. And let me release this. If you can look back here, there is my 1/8 inch cable clamp and all 5 of my ferrules. Now, if you're not sure, but you know it's too long, let me go over on this side. It's a little easier for you to see. Oh, my leg's caught on the welder. You can take this, you can put this clamp down here on the end of the cable between the ferrule that's crushed on and these loose ferrules. That way you can still adjust it some without taking this clamp off and on every time you want to pull one of these through your pedal. Now, once you get that adjusted, you can adjust your brake cable. I'm going to turn this thing off and stick you under here so you can see a little better. Okay, to tighten up this clutch cable, or brake cable, I pull it. Where's my clutch? Ah. There. I had to set the parking brake to do this. You want pull back on this cable. That's working the brake by pushing on here. Pull back on the cable and run the nut up. Now they tell you you should have, I can adjust this a little bit. Down inside of here, you can see there's a piece of steel clamped or crushed to this cable. And they tell you from that piece of steel out to the end, you should have about 3/4 of an inch. Now, personally, I think that's a little tight. But you can adjust this with a 1/2 inch wrench. Get this run down as far as I can by pulling on the cable. So when you pull on the cable, you're compressing the spring inside of here. Sometimes you don't even need a wrench. Now let's see how much I got. Yeah, not much. Feels pretty solid to me. Get this scale down in there. I got a 1/2 inch. And that's where I'm going to leave mine. Now once you want to back this lock nut up, or a jam nut, and you want to jam them two together so you don't lose your setting. Put a 1/2 inch wrench on the back and jam this down with another 1/2 inch up here. And my light's in my way, I can't get my wrench up there. There. And that's all there is to it. Now I'll release the parking brake. Now this cable, well, this is loose right now, but sometimes if you have more tension on it, this will be tight. But as long as you can push on this and you're not applying the brake, you won't wear your brake out. This is the direction it has to go to set the brake. And that's about it. It's really not all that hard. I finally got my table set up and I just love this thing. It makes working on this machine so much easier. The next thing I want to do to it is I want to make some kind of a stand back here where I can lift the tires off of the table and I can actually run it up here to see where the problem is and what's making noise, and try to make it a little easier for me to repair these things. But that's it on your clutch cable adjustment Not much to it. If you have any questions or comments, send me an email. And until next time, work safe, have fun, and I'll talk to you soon. So long.